Greetings and salutations all. This is Kato. We are on to our second installment of the quest for Daedric artifacts. Now this is a guide. I'm here to help you out, and even show you a path that you may not have taken if you had done the quest already. If you notice, the intro was a little more dark this time, because I'm trying to set a mood for quests that involve madness, nightmares, and cannibalism. Today I'll be covering the Taste of Death, the Mind of Madness, and Waking Nightmare. Those quests are for Namira, Sheogorath, and Vermina. Alright, let's get right down to it. First quest, Taste of Death, for Namira, the Lady of Decay. To start this quest, you're going to need to head over to Markarth and head into the keep. If this is your first time in the keep, you'll find a priest of Arkay arguing with someone and not allowing him to go into the Hall of the Dead. After the little conversation is over, go talk to the priest directly and find out what's going on with the Hall of the Dead. Take an immediate left when you enter the keep, and the Hall of the Dead is right past the excavation site. You ask the priest what's going on there, and then you get a speech check. After you bypass that, you get a little rundown on what's going on. Seems as though somebody's going into the Hall of the Dead, eating the remains of the deceased, and desecrating them in all sorts of ways. Of course, I'm not going to elaborate any further. Head on inside and walk around for a little while. You'll start to hear a voice that seems to be coming from everywhere, mentioning something about forgetting a first meal. A Nord woman suddenly appears and starts dialogue with you. Her name's Iola, and she's a follower of Namira. She said she had come here from a place called Reachcliff Cave, and needs it cleared out of Draugr. She gives you the location and vanishes. Return to the priest and let him know all is well. The weird part is he doesn't ask any questions whatsoever. Just gives you an amulet of Arcane and sends you on your way. Leave Markarth and find your way to Reachcliff Cave. Go east and take the second road on your right. Once you make it there, you find Iola outside. She actually offers to go along with you. It's best to take her along, because you gotta talk to her directly after you kill the Draugr anyways. Once inside, you pretty much have a direct path to the Shrine of Namira. There's only one spot where the path actually splits into two and then ends up in the same room anyways. Now the Draugr in here are level appropriate, so if you're high level you will encounter a lot of overlords. Bring fire, and lots of it. Once you make your way to the main chamber, you will encounter two Draugr, one of which will be more powerful than the rest. Some cool little bit of info I found out. When the Draugr actually speak, it's not nonsense. When they say Ar Venok, for example, it's roughly translated to defeat his servant, which could perhaps mean a party member you brought along. Anyways, Iola catches up with you if you didn't bring her, or just talks to you directly if you did bring her. She says the next step is to prepare a feast, and the perfect individual to quote-unquote invite to this feast would be the priest of Arkay that you helped out earlier. Head back over to the Hall of the Dead in Markarth. He should be in there somewhere. Now, convincing him with a persuade requires a pretty high speech, because I was at about 50 when I asked him. Of course, if you fail, he makes a crack about an empty pocket being better than a full grave. But of course, if you do fail, you can give him money anyways, which makes that joke kind of contradict a little bit. Anyways, figure out some way to bring him with you, and then you now have access to the secret entrance, which is actually along the road on your first right now. Pretty much just once you hit the bridge, you'll see the door on the left, and then head right in. You'll come in pretty much just in front of the main chamber. Make your way into the main chamber, and Iola will take it from there.
Yes, I'm your friend, and I've invited you to dinner.
I've been invited to dinner. I'm so hungry.
Why don't you lay down and rest while we get the meal ready?
I need to lay down. I'll just be a minute.
Come with me. Our feast is about to begin.
You get the basic idea of what's going to happen next. Iola tells you to kill the priest, and then take a bite. Ugh. In an unusually sensual voice, Namira begins to speak to you directly, granting you her power and allowing you to become her champion, rewarding you with her ring, which increases your stamina by 50 points and also allows you to feed off of corpses to increase your health and health regeneration. As an added bonus, you also get Iola as a potential follower. Another artifact down, moving on. The quest for our next artifact takes us to the lovely seaside town of Solitude, and allows us to reminisce about the Shivering Isles. Yes, the next Daedric quest is the Mind of Madness, for the lovable and completely insane Sheogorath. Now, if you do not play Oblivion, let alone the Shivering Isles, go play it before you do this quest. Seriously, it's good. So you find this fellow named Dervinin wandering around the streets of Solitude. It's pretty easy to spot him, because he seems to be talking to himself. So it appears that he's freaking out because his master has abandoned him, or so he thinks, and that his master had been visiting a friend in the Blue Palace. Being the nice person that you are, you can decide to offer him help in convincing his master to take him back. He accepts your help and gives you a hip bone. You'll find out why momentarily. Bid him farewell and head on over to the Blue Palace. Now if you have trouble finding the Blue Palace, it is on the south end of Solitude. It's named that because of the blue roof, so you should be able to find it. Make your way inside and try and find the cleaning lady, Airdy. Man, what is up with these weird names? And convince her to let you inside the Pelagius wing. If you have good standing with Solitude, it should be no problem at all. When you find yourself inside the Pelagius wing, it's old, covered in dust and cobwebs. Find the hallway with a red carpet. Once you get about midway in that hallway, you will be transported to a strange and foggy place, where you finally get to meet the Prince of Madness. I'm gonna let you know ahead of time, his dialogue may crack you up. Now you find yourself in this strange place without your armaments or equipment. Instead, it's all replaced with some fine clothing and a fine hat to match. You actually won't be able to access your menu either from here. I know some of you may feel crippled, but don't worry. Once Sheogorath is done speaking to his current guest, you try to tell him that you've been sent as a messenger from Dirvenin. After a long-winded reply, he finally introduces himself.
You can call me Anne-Marie, but only if you're partial to being flayed alive and having an angry immortal skip rope with your entrails. If not, then call me Sheogorath, Daedric, Prince of Madness. Charmed.
After that lovely introduction, he informs you that you are in the mine of the dead Emperor Pelagius III. He hands you a lovely staff called the Wabbajack, and tasks you with helping Pelagius get over his issues that still plague him even in death. Now these three areas that you go to make sense only in a metaphorical standpoint. If you're completely confused, just fire the Wabbajack at pretty much everything you see, and eventually you'll get it right. Of course, I'm not going to ruin the puzzles for you entirely, because that's half the fun. You can solve them in any order you like, and get sort of a basic idea of what the Wabbajack does do. You finish these puzzles and head on back to Sheogorath, and tell him you fixed Pelagius.
Fixed is such a subjective term. I think treated is far more appropriate, don't you? Like one does to a rash, or an arrow in the face.
I can't help but play the audio in some of these clips. He's just so lovable and crazy. In his own special way, he thanks you, and finally decides to return to the Shivering Isles.
Let's make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Clothes, check. Beard, check. Luggage. Luggage. Now, where did I leave my luggage?
That's the last one, I swear. So Dirvenin happened to be his luggage. Makes you wonder how he really treats his followers. But he was a devout follower, so he is taken back to Sheogorath's Plane of Oblivion. Then Sheogorath turns to you and allows you to keep the Wabbajack. Of course, none of us saw that coming. He also gives you an open invitation to come visit sometime. Shivering Isles is an awesome place, why wouldn't you? Now the Wabbajack causes all sorts of nonsense, just like its creator. I looked it up, and this staff has roughly 27 effects. So go crazy. Figuratively, of course. I bet you are reeking of success right now. Or that might be me. Hang in there, we got one more for this episode. Our next quest takes us to the snowy town of Dawnstar. The quest is Waking Nightmare for the Daedric Prince Vermina. Now you hear about this quest about the second you end up in town. You can hear it from a storekeeper or somebody passing by. But the rumor is that there's nightmares plaguing the entire town. Go to the Jarl's Longhouse and talk to Jarl Skald, and he lets you know right off the bat that if you're not here to help with the nightmares, then you might as well get out of here. He directs you to a priest of Mara, who had also offered his help, and can be found at the inn. You find your way over to the inn, and you see a priest of Mara talking to some miners. Talk to him once he's finished, poorly reassuring them. You find out these nightmares are a byproduct from the Daedric Prince Vermina, after feeding off of the townspeople's memories. Erander would like to end her terrible influence, but of course he needs your help to do so. He said you must return to the place where her influence is coming from, Nightcaller Temple, which is just east of Dawnstar. There's actually a path that leads you straight up to it, so it should be pretty easy. Erander gives you a little explanation on what the temple's all about, and then leads you inside. You find yourselves blocked by a giant stone representation of Vermina. Erander says just a moment, then burns his way through it. Follow him roughly 50 feet, and he will point out the source of all these nightmares. It is a staff called the Skull of Corruption. He explains that there was a large battle here between the followers of Vermina and Orcish raiders, and the only way to stop the fighting was to release a gas called the miasma, which put them all to sleep. Of course, since you had now entered, they begin to awaken and pick up right where they left off. You don't get too far in before you're obstructed by a barrier. Erander says he may know of a solution, but you're going to have to go check the library first. It's at this point you wonder how he knows so much. He then figures it's best to tell you now that he was originally a follower of Vermina. Since he still has his key to the library, you can head over there and you're supposed to be looking for a book called The Dream Stride. It's roughly twice the size of a normal book and blue, so you shouldn't have any trouble finding it. Bring it back to Erander, and you'll find out something really cool that the followers of Vermina had developed. It's called a torpor. By combining alchemy and the blessings of a divine, this potion would allow the user to go into the dream world and to use it as a mode of travel for the real world. Erander says that since he's a sworn priest of Mara, the elixir won't work for him. You, however, it will. So the next task is to find it. There will be followers of Vermina and orcs along the way, but you should have no problem finding this room. It's got an alchemy table in the middle and shelves upon shelves of ingredients, including Daedra hearts, so be sure to pick those up. And also the torpor that he was talking about. I figure I'll let you guys know now, save before you drink the torpor, because your game will more than likely crash if you try to save after the Dream Stride begins, until the quest is over. It's something to do with that part of the quest that causes the crash itself. Figured I'd let you know I am here to help you out. So you tell Erander that you found this elixir, and he responds with, chug, chug, chug. So you really have no other option. Drink it and you find yourself in the dream world, and looking through the eyes of a follower of Vermina, named Casimir. This is actually a memory of right before the miasma was released, and everybody took a big nap. You find out your role in all of this is to be the one to release it. Basically just run through the battle that's going on, because you don't have the option to fight anyways, and find a giant pull chain and then pull it. You'll awaken at the same spot in reality, and have to remove the soul gem that is controlling the barrier. To Erander, this was instantaneous, which actually makes the Dream Stride that much cooler. So since you now bypass the barrier, you take the same path you did in the dream, except backwards, and with the ability to fight enemies. Now, there's not too much difficulty getting to the central area where the staff is being kept, because it does take a while for those enemies to get up. Now, you're not looking for ones that are dead, you're looking for ones that are kind of curled up in a ball. When you finally get to where the staff is being kept, the two followers that you met in the dream are in this last room, and you find out Erander was actually Casimir, the one you were acting as in the dream. Obviously the meeting doesn't go over very well, because Casimir did not take to the miasma like everybody else. After you defeat them, Erander, also known as Casimir, calls upon the power of Mara to banish the Skull of Corruption. Vermina then begins to speak to you, telling you are being deceived. I mean, of course, yes, you were deceived by him earlier, twice, and she orders you to kill him, the reward, of course, being the staff. So here's the choice in this quest. You can allow him to finish the ceremony and receive him as a follower, or you can decide to kill him and take the staff for yourself. Who's deceiving who now? Now, the Skull of Corruption is a very interesting staff, as just like the beginning of the quest, it feeds off of the dreams of others. All you have to do is cast the staff on somebody that is asleep, and you will receive the damaging side of the staff. Now, casting it on somebody who's asleep does not count as a hostile action. Also, when you attack with the staff, it is an area of effect move, and 50 damage to everybody in the area is pretty hefty. So have fun reaping some dreams. Now that you guys have 3 wonderful artifacts to play around with, have some fun. Better yet, send me some screenshots. I'm kind of running out of ideas of what to display for the credits. So if you guys have some cool screenshots that you took, go ahead and send them to me. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if there's something you liked about it, tell me in the comments. If there's something you didn't like, tell me that too, and why, so I can fix it. Now, I appreciate love in any form, so if anything, give me some thumbs. And hey, best of luck in your future quests.